again to another episode of Tally Stakes. We are very happy to have you here tonight as we delve into another exciting topic. We want to take this opportunity nonetheless to share our appreciation, our gratitude to those who are liking and subscribing and sending out the word. And we are saying thanks to some of our international viewers. We really want you to be a part of the conversation. Let us change the narrative. Let us have conversations. Let us give other people our opinion. Let's be true to ourselves and let us be able to converse with each other our truth in a way that is respectful. In so doing, we build stronger characters. We what? We build communities that are fervent and that are able to be viable. And when we have strong communities, we are going to have a better world. All right? So, tonight's topic is equally interesting as the last one. And I'm going to be international tonight. I am looking at deranged Democrats on Doge. Like, I really can't understand what the issue is on Doge. I guess let us look at the arguments. I guess nobody likes mass layoff, right? I do understand that. So they're trimming the government. People are taking time off. But let's look at the context though. Half the people weren't coming to work. They were at home, working from home. Do not know they had targets to meet. Some of that in the government, some of the positions in the government is obviously wasteful. So it has to go. Once a country has that amount of debt, doesn't make any sense. I guess people will now have to revert to the private sector and try to accentuate their true potential and do some actual work to get some money. Right? But obviously it's never good for people losing their work. But if it is that you have a government that is bloated, it doesn't make any sense either. So we have to balance the two. Because yes, you can keep somebody in their work, but eventually the entire system is going to crash, so it doesn't make any sense. So I do understand the point where some people be upset on Doge, where that is concerned. Alright? But as it relates to the type of spending that they have been cutting, oh my goodness. You cannot believe taxpayers' money is being spent on these things. And I am saying, if I were an American citizen, I would want back all my money that I pay in taxes. Because it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Some of these things, there's certain contexts, there's certain things, for example, I don't even know if it is waste, or perhaps it's fraud or abuse, or it's just plain craziness. How can a contract that was initially set for duration for 3 months, and the contractor still is being paid after 20 years on the same contract because there was nobody there to terminate the contract, then why do we have so many people employed if none of the thousands and thousands of people employed to the government is not able to look out for these things and cut contracts? Then it doesn't make any sense. They cut the bloated government. If it is that we are going to have all these people there and there is nobody there to look at the contract and say, well, this contract only lasts for 3 months. You have been paying this contractor for 5 years. This is ludicrous. Absolute madness. All right? So, there has to be some Doge. And Doge is the Department of Government Efficiency. And I think Doge is to be replicated in other countries. I would love Doge to come to Jamaica. I would love Doge to be where I work. I would love Doge to be everywhere. Because waste, fraud, and abuse is to be minimized. Trust me, we'll not be able to get rid of it all at once. But it cannot be the popular thing. It cannot be so pervasive that it is almost as if it were a culture. And that's the issue with Jamaica. Far too much times corruption is the order of the day. Corruption is as if it were a staple in our lives, in our culture, and that is not acceptable. So Doge has come to help the people in the US, and I hope Doge can come to help us in Jamaica. But the Democrats are upset about cutting waste. I don't understand. The Democrats argue, constitutional crisis, they're taking over our data. Huh? What? So only certain bureaucrats must have access to the data? And you are telling me that the rules that govern the access and use of your data, which restricts the bureaucrats from mishandling your data, would not be applicable to the employees or members of Doge? And at the same time, you are not discussing the type of spending. That is why people think that you are deranged. That is why people think that most people on the left are deranged and that you have Trump derangement syndrome. This is just crazy. I don't know. This is just crazy. Now, let's listen to this conversation here about the Democrats' perspectives on Doge as highlighted on a Fox insert.
Okay, Democrats are heading to court to fight Donald Trump's cost-cutting agenda, temporarily blocking Doge from Treasury records and pausing Trump's federal employee buyout plan.
We will fight it out in Congress. We will fight it out in the courts. We will fight it out across this country. And I promise you, we will win.
I want to applaud the courts. They're doing a pretty damn good job right now.
And the courts shut Elon Musk down at the Department of Justice and FBI. And the courts shut them down at USAID on Friday night. And the courts shut them down in the Department of Treasury.
Well, we're not shutting her down. We're bringing her on. Fox News legal editor Carrie Urban joins us right now from D.C. Carrie, good morning to you.
Good morning.
To quote Barack Obama, elections have consequences, and this is one of those consequences. If you are in charge of the executive branch, and all those agencies are, you are the sheriff, the new sheriff in town. You can do what you want. So, ultimately, the Democrats might want to take him to court, but who ultimately is going to win?
Right, that's exactly right. And Steve, this was something that I observed over and over again when I worked in the federal government at DOJ. Are career officials vital to the day-to-day functioning of the federal government? Absolutely. We need them for that. However, it's the political appointees who are technically the elected folks who implement the president's agenda, because they've been appointed by the guy, as to your point, who won the election. And one thing I watched inside the government, and I've watched the media push this misguided notion, is that career folks should have the power, when in fact it's the politicals, because of the election, and also the judgment of career officials should not supplant that of the.
And this is something that we need to remind ourselves. There are technocrats in government whose roles are very important, but they answer to the elected political representative, because the political representative represent the people. It is not the technocrats or the political representative who work for the technocrats. The technocrats work for the political representative, because the political representative represent the people and the wishes of the people. And so, some people revere the technocrats, revere the bureaucrats, revere the long-standing employees. Fine, but the long-standing employees must understand that if there's a change in administration, there may be a change in policy, and they cannot effect or implement policies that they like and run counter to policies of the elected political representatives, or take measures to thwart the policies of those who are elected. If you do not like these policies, resign, step aside. If you're just neutral and just want to do your work and get to pay and go home to your family, do your work, get to pay, go home to your family. But you cannot be in the system and still doing what you feel, what you think. Just step aside and go to the private sector until a political body is elected that represents your views and your opinions. But until then, you have to execute the policy of the elected representative. That is how government works.
the political appointees, but that has been a push inside the government for many, many years. And I think why there's such a meltdown right now is because the Trump administration, I say, is going about it the right way and saying, no, I was elected. These are my appointees. They're the ones responsible for driving and implementing my political agenda.
Right. And, you know, I think Donald Trump loves the fact that a lot of Democrats' hair is on fire because now they are forced to defend millions and millions and perhaps billions of dollars in, when you look at it, it looks like stupid programs that through time have just continued, or somebody figured out how to squeeze it through Congress, and it's the law of the land.
Right. And in what universe should a government should not be allowed to conduct an audit of its finances? That's what we're talking about, which is why I think the Treasury Department decision is especially concerning. The fact that a judge said that only career officials within the Treasury Department can assess their own data that has personally identifiable information, it's outrageous. And, you know, there's a lot.
Just so that you know that the judge had to step back on that ruling, because that was so completely outrageous that the judge had to correct that. Because how could the political appointees, the head of the Treasury, not have access to the spending receipts of the Treasury? What are we going to do about these judges? These jarring judges?
A lot of talk about the constitutionality of Donald Trump's actions. I would say the conversation really should start shifting to the constitutionality of the judiciary, because in a situation like that,
praise God, somebody gets it. Somebody gets it. We need to review the judiciary. We need to, I don't know, what did we have to review the judiciary? We have to.
for instance, they are blocking a co-equal branches function, you know, a legitimate exercise of their authority. And so the fact that for some reason career officials should have more access than the politicals, it's not just ridiculous. I would argue that politicals should have more access than the careers, in that they were appointed by the person who won the election, and he won on a campaign promise to clean up the government, and they're trying to do that, and there is mass resistance.
And Carrie, you know, ultimately, you know, for a lot of people, they said, I never heard of U.S. aid before. But that was one of those things that Republicans had railed against for decades, just like the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. Republicans haven't liked that. NOAA, the weather people, stuff like that. We knew that was coming. The next part is going to be harder, because it's going to be the Department of Education they're going to take a look at, and the Pentagon. And the Pentagon has got so many lobbyists who fan out, you know them, across Washington, and suddenly Republicans are even going to go, you know, I'm not so sure about that cut.
It's always about money, isn't it? You know, when people start freaking out, that's typically what you can trace it to. And look, Steve, I think even on the federal buyouts, you know, action that Doge drove, you know, if you take a look at that, no one is being forced to resign. No one's being fired. They have the option. And this idea that, well, Congress appropriated these funds in this way, that hasn't changed. Those positions are funded. And so once those positions are funded, the executive branch can decide how they want to deal with it. And here they're offering them a deal. They don't have to take it. And so I don't even see what the issue is there exactly, especially when you, and clearly a lot of those federal employees don't either, considering how many thousands of them have.
So here we have a policy that the government is advancing. If you want to resign, right, I could give you 8 months, pay you for 8 months. You take the 8 months, look for a job, but you must resign at the end of 8 months, and then you can resettle. The court is going to block the government from doing that. But that is not the court's place. In fact, the employee doesn't have to take it up. They don't have to take up the offer because it was an offer. How can the court block an offer? An offer that the employee can accept. It's crazy. It's crazy. And we have to do something about these jars.
Accepted that offer. But we'll see what happens given the judiciary's interference in that one.
Well, let's see. Carrie, thank you very much for trying to make it so much easier for us to understand.
Judicial interference. Now, my concern with those, particularly the Democrats who are opposing Doge, they are not even referring so much about the layoff as the issue with Doge, to which I had referred earlier in this podcast. They are referring to why are we cutting this spending and this agency? Now let's look at some of the spending that the Democrats are defending. So on Friday, Doge on Saturday, sorry, Doge canceled some of these payments. Now this is some of them. US taxpayers' dollars were going to be spent on the following items, all of which have been cancelled. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcision. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. Please remember that the people in North Carolina are still struggling to find places and to sleep and food to eat because they are still ravaged from Hurricane Helene. And so the government, instead of paying attention to these people, are sending $10 million for the Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcision program, and also $9.7 million on a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. Strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center. $40 million for Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Hub. $40 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova and $2 million for voter turnout in India. $29 million to strengthening political landscape in Bangladesh. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. I'm sorry. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $40 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in Southern Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities of Kosovo, Roma, Ashkali, and Egypt. So the Democrats are screaming, don't cut this spending, don't cut this spending. Up to this present moment, no Democrat has come out and said, yes, let's cut the spending. But do it this way. You can do it that way. All right? There are certain things that we can agree on that can be cut. Let's cut these, let's cut that. All right, some of these things have some merit. Let's reduce the spending in that. Or let's do these type of spending over a longer period of time and then focus on the all-important aid, the life-saving aid that people need in the different countries. They are just doubling down and saying nothing is to be cut. So you are telling me that they are okay with this expenditure? I would like somebody to come to me and explain to me very slowly, very carefully, how this list of expenditure is good for the American people and it is good for the world. I am willing to listen to every perspective on this issue because I am lost at the behavior of the Democrats. I am completely lost. And it's just craziness. It's wild. Because for the rest of us, we are believing that there has to be some fraud involved. And so, Is it that the Democrats are really deranged? Or are they more concerned than deranged? But since we do not have the evidence of the fraud, let us give everybody the benefit of the doubt to discuss and to explain to people who are skeptical or opposed to this type of spending what is it that we need to understand that we are not getting of the importance of these expenditures. So obviously, we definitely have to have that conversation because you're either Trump deranged or some other sinister motive is involved. But as we're looking at it right now, this type of spending is ludicrous, makes no sense, and it is not to the benefit of the American people. It seems to be to the benefit of smaller interest groups and NGOs who benefit from accessing these type of funds. Tell me what you think, tell me what you feel, and leave your comment. Join the conversation. Remember to subscribe and to make your contribution to the discussion. All right? And Tally is now out.